You know, I'm very, very honored to have in studio with us today. Governor Gary Johnson joins us here in studio, in person. We have video of the event taking place as it is, and he has an event coming up tonight. Online, you can visit him at ouramericaninitiative.com, but what a remarkable job and what a remarkable history he has as governor, former governor of New Mexico. And Governor Gary Johnson, thank you for joining us in studio today.
Rob, thank you for having me in studio, and I understand you've got quite the resume yourself, having served here in the city council, is it?
Well, it was an interesting time, and it kind of set me up for being able to do a program like this, but you and I both served in perhaps politically adverse situations.
Well, probably the same. New Mexico's 2-1 Democrat. And I got elected, and I got reelected. So I got reelected, I think, on the basis of good stewardship of tax dollars.
Before we get into that, and I want to talk about that because I think that is such a critical point, and we don't see much of that today. You are speaking this evening at the Northside Library. That's in Albemarle Square at 7 o'clock p.m. This is a free event. It's open to the public, and you kind of described it as topics from A to Z. Are you going to have a presentation and then take questions tonight?
Yeah, it'll be, well, questions, comments, insults, anybody might have.
It's going to be a great time, and we want to encourage people to go tonight again to Northside Library to hear Governor Gary Johnson up at the Albemarle Square, 7 o'clock p.m., and it is free and open to the public. We hope that you'll go and bring your challenges along with your supportive questions and comments and everything else, because I know that Gary's up to it. So let's get into your record in New Mexico. First of all, I'd love to talk about how you, running as a Republican, were able to get elected in a place that was 2-1 against you on party affiliation.
Well, so the promise was to bring a common sense business approach to state government. The promise was best product, best service, lowest price. The promise was issues first, politics last. Mm-hmm. And I like to think I got elected on the basis of this is what I was going to deliver. I would like to think I got reelected on the basis of way over delivering on all those promises.
Well, it is exciting when you can make promises that are true to your heart, and obviously I can tell just by knowing you for a short time that you're passionate about these things, and that people respond to them. I'm sure there were the critics, though. I mean, were you attacked for what you were saying, and then once you were elected, what you were doing? Were there big government folks who said, we got to get rid of this guy because our special interests are not being met?
Well, certainly, and I think, again, that people saw that, so I took a stand against legislation that benefited well-connected political individuals, well-connected political companies, meaning corporations that were well-connected politically. I think what I really showed was that government policy should affect all of us equally, and when government policy does that, that's the best policy. That instills confidence and the economy grows.
But we have so many instances, and we can start locally and move up to the state level and then to the federal level, of government being unequal, and that
there's this corporatism that exists in this country today, and again, it really bars entry as opposed to making this equal access, ensuring that all of us can access the American dream, which is really what the government can do, is provide a level playing field to making sure that would happen.
Well, that was certainly the founders' vision. I mean, as we look broadly at what they envisioned the country to be, but I mean, as we look at every level of government, they are attempting to get involved and insert themselves to make it fair, to make sure that the outcome is fair. Not that there's a level playing field for people to step onto, but that we have this outcome that everyone, I guess, achieves the same or has the same amount of money.
Well, and of course, outcomes are impossible to legislate. But I agree with you. That's what we're trying to do, as opposed to, again, this notion of fairness. I never claimed to create one single job as governor of New Mexico. Because government doesn't create jobs. It creates, again, an environment that can instill confidence and ultimately results in demand for goods and services, and that's why people hire other people.
Governor Gary Johnson, but this is where we've gotten off track because we have Congressman Tom Perriello here who said, I'm going to go work a double shift in Washington, D.C. to bring jobs to the South Side. And he wasn't talking about getting government out of the way. He was talking about inserting government. And then we have people at all levels of government, unfortunately, including people here, Republicans elected to a statewide office, who are talking about, elect me because I'm going to get you jobs. I'm going to create jobs here.
Well, as a rule of thumb, when any politician says they're going to burn the midnight oil working for you or me, that's beware.
Yeah, look out, right?
Watch out. Really, when snowpocalypse happened in Washington, D.C., and they talked about the fact that billions of dollars of productivity had been lost, I would have argued the opposite. Perhaps we saved a lot of money because government was shut down and wasn't able to continue this spending spree that has us borrowing right now 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. I just think this country's bankrupt. And by bankrupt, federal government's printing money to cover our obligations. And to me, that's going to result in a weaker dollar and inflation at some point off there in the horizon.
I mean, how can we avoid that inflation that we know is coming with this expansion of the money supply?
Well, really, we have to slash spending, and we can't raise taxes. That's just unacceptable. The notion of raising taxes always ends up at a largesse at some point, and politicians then encumbering that money for future obligation. And that's what we've seen. The state pension funds right now across the country are really, they're going to go bust. They're, more being actuarial studies, more is going to get paid out than is going to ever come in. They were Ponzi schemes when they were adopted, and now the chickens have come home to roost, and these issues need to be addressed now, right now. Federal government, Medicaid, Medicare. I think we should be looking at capitating Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. Certainly, we need to, at a minimum, raise the retirement age. When Social Security was adopted, average lifespan of an American was like 55 years old. And okay, so you start collecting at 65, nobody's going to even live to that point. Well, using that same ratio today, maybe Social Security ought to kick in at 90. But the point was that it was never meant to be what it is today. When Medicare was adopted in the mid-'60s, it was estimated to cost $10 billion in 1980. It cost $100 billion, and today it's $500 billion, and it hasn't even begun to see the pressures that it's going to see with baby boomers just becoming eligible now for benefit.
So, Governor Gary Johnson, when we hear politicians like Tom Perriello and many others who voted in favor of this nationalized, corporatized health care system, telling us that it's going to save us money and reduce the deficit, I mean, aside from laughing, what should our response be?
Well, our response should be to vote everybody that's in office out of office. Anyone that has supported this out of office. I think it would be a mistake for Republicans right now to view that this as some sort of mandate, given the fact that Republicans controlled the Congress and the presidency and ran up record deficits. Of course, those record deficits today seem paltry in comparison to what's happening now, but I think Republicans are going to pick up seats simply on the basis of them being the minority today. And if we elect in, if whomever we elect in, if these issues don't get addressed, then those individuals ought to get voted out. And that's the process that we as citizens ought to start embarking on right now. We're mad as hell, and we don't want to take it anymore.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm there with you, Governor Gary Johnson. 977-1070 is the phone number. If you have comments or questions for our guest, we would love to hear from you at 977-1070. When we get back, I want to talk about what you see to be the greatest threat to America as we stand right now, because there are certainly a lot of them. There's a lot to pick from, but I want to see what your priority is. And I'm going to talk about perhaps some of the solutions that you see for the problems that plague the United States of America right now. All right, 977-1070. The Schilling Show returns right after the news. Stand by.